So you guys, so for those that don't know or do know, I'm just going to explain my thoughts on what people think is really, you know, picturesque and what they think this crown is on top of this woman. It's not a crown. It's actually a piece of jewelry on her hair. That's an afro. And same thing with this guy, except it's a different color. It's just colored. They all had afro texture hair and they shaped their hair to look the way it looked. Plus, they were all into killing snakes and making them look like headpieces because it kind of like had, it was like amphibians. They had skins, they skinned them and they would make hats out of them and they use it for that. So, Cleopatra, she was the only link to explain about that. Now, I don't know how much she knew, but I believe she knew a lot, or else we wouldn't know where to go and how time had passed on generation to generation this information. So yeah, same thing with the hieroglyphs and the drawings that they had on the wall, kind of like graffiti how they have today. But the most of the discolorations, they would grab their hair and they would cut hair. Egypt was known for cutting hair, and I kind of explained that in my posts on my community page. They always cut the hair, and well, this depiction is of someone disciplining his servants or whatever. There was a mixed multitude of them in Egypt. Same thing with Queen Tai, and they were dark. They had a lot of hair, and they were known for cutting their hair to a certain length. And she might be dark, very, maybe even darker. I don't know, but they were even skinned. They had a lot of mixed multitude of people. That wasn't a problem. They were all about kindreds, nations, and tongues. They weren't about race. Race wasn't discovered in the Bible, which we get from people believe that. Whitley Phipps said that in a documentary. I mean, not documentary, in an interview on Oprah Winfrey show. These cross things used to be keys and triangles and stuff, nature. So, and it's always depicted how rich in nature they were. They had to replant, they had to farm and stuff. They were only able to do that because of Joseph. This part with Potiphar, he knew Joseph, and that only took in the time of that time. It's because of Joseph we get good plants, and he saved the whole world from famine at that time. So that's why we get better food today. Queen of Sheba, or Hagar, not Queen of Sheba, Hagar and Ishmael. They were really dark-skinned people. They had, even skin. They weren't anything different. That's just who they were. And they were big people, and they had a lot of children, just like how we have more today. Because of them, we have children. And Zipporah, she's also very rich in ethnic skin and everything. It didn't matter. It was a mixed multitude of people around that time in Ethiopia and Egypt. Not Ethiopia. Ethiopia wasn't Ethiopia. It was Egypt. And that's where she was originally. Makeda, the Queen of Sheba. Now, she's also full of melanin. And they consider her Ethiopian, but she's not really Ethiopian. She's from the time where David and he lived in her house of Solomon. So, yeah, that's probably where she stayed for the rest of her life. It doesn't quite say what she did after that, but yeah, she stayed there with him. The kings of the pharaohs, like when they have their hair that way, that was really their hair. They didn't have any helmets. That was really what their hair looked like. And they had to carve it in a certain way, in an artistic way. They were really hairy, and they were bold in features, and that's why they are the way they are, even scattered everywhere in African Americans. Their dark features. They had goatees. They had even what they think is cosmetics and stuff. The keys, that cross thing is a key. They had, they wore their hair. It was just natural, do-rags and everything, and not too much jewelry. I believe though that Amin Ra and the people who decide to die, the people who are dead in this scene, in the tombs. They died because of the plagues. There's no more history after Moses' time, even if Jesus revisited there or Cleopatra at that time. Those people are long gone, deceased. People who have been deceased since this woman, another queen, probably one of the queens of Egypt, she too was dark skinned. You could see her hair, even if her skin was dried up and dead and everything. They try to preserve it and everything. It wouldn't be preserved. It won't. The original Egypt, it's not going to come back. Even if they had museums, they were told to leave Egypt for a reason. It's dead there. Ever since the plagues took over. After Moses, it was all over. King Nebuchadnezzar, he tried to come over there and try to whiten it up or whatever. That's eugenics right there for you. This documentary where I was watching about the legends of the pharaohs, episode 1, and I watched a little bit of 4 and 5. It's not accurate all the way. Matter of fact, a lot of it is inaccurate. And I'm saying this because I didn't find it suitable for them to talk about without enough facts and information. I know a lot about it only because of what I've read in the Bible. Now, the Bible and the Bible alone, you can't find anything other clear document other than the Bible that tells you about Egypt. If they don't believe that, sorry for them. I'm not saying they don't know that, but they need to wake up to the truth that that's what it is. These things that he's holding in his arm, this sculpture, those were his scepter and his long mustache and whatever he wore on his head, whatever. I believe he shaped his head to be an afro, and these stones and stuff used to be colored. They weren't so light like that. Everything was colored. All the buildings, everything had color. It was all filled with paint color a long time ago. That's all they did. They didn't have electronics like we had. They had everything. Okay? I need people to realize that. Wake up. Yeah, these things used to be keys. They had talked about right there in that location where people were standing. That's where they drew the people. That's that exact picture. That's what it looked like when they were standing there in front while they were getting painted. So all of that, that's their hair. That's what they looked like. Even though it's a little discoloration, that's exactly what happened at that time. The hieroglyphs, they're depicting what life was like with all those animals and these water symbols and signs and eyes and stuff. It was a lot of people. That's all it's saying. Animals were around there at that time because of Joseph and Moses. People were trading and everything. That life is all gone after Moses. After Moses left, that was gone. King Nebuchadnezzar, they tried to say they were rebuilding and everything, or Cleopatra or whatever. You name it. Those people are gone. They have no right to say that that's what they did later on. Even in the time with this picture here, this guy trying to explain episode 1, it's still not accurate. That was just a picture of the sunrise and the water that was there in Egypt. All that water, the devastation there is gone. You could tell when you look at Egypt. That's why they were told to leave Egypt, the Israelites and slaves and all those who wanted to side with them, with God. The mixed multitude of people, they all left. Okay, I need people to wake up and realize that they all left. Okay, it's sad, but that's what it was. All right, guys, thank you for looking at this video. Like and subscribe. Bye.